Perhaps what's most compelling about this series is how much it goes beyond where you think it will go, Lauren, as you said, to widen the lens. It's not just a series of sit-down interviews where people share their perspectives, but you invite the audience in on your process as you both try to make sense of things, sometimes with you both on camera. But you also hold a mirror up to the audience to get them to ask big questions about themselves. There's a lot to take in with the nature of people and trying to make sense of things that just don't really. We can spend our whole lives trying to turn stones over, but sometimes maybe they're not meant to. In this quest to get questions answered, what were some of the biggest questions you asked about yourselves? Like, what did it all reveal about yourself in this?
Well, I'm so glad you touched on our decision to kind of like interrogate our own role
Mhm.
in the, you know, in the true crime landscape. And I give Ben tons of credit for that. I mean, he really, really pushed for us to just kind of just to start at the beginning. I mean, I think one thing that really interested me about this story was that Bourgoin managed to position himself at the convergence of like law enforcement, media, and social networks. So it was a story that lent itself to um, interrogating like the entire system,
Mm.
rather than just focusing on um, kind of one incident. I think it's a story that inherently raises some questions about the nature of the genre, about the nature of the industry that's grown around it, and about the ethics of telling these stories about kind of the worst moments of people's lives. So anyway, I want to let Ben talk about this a little bit because he was like, you know, um, so had so many ideas and convictions and a strong point of view about this. But yeah, just thank you for noticing our effort to push a little bit further into some of those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, to echo Lauren, yeah, just a super astute, kind of keen observation to key on as a frame for why we think the series is so compelling. I would just add that we hold a mirror up to the audience, but part of that mirror it includes as Lauren said, as journalists, as storytellers, as filmmakers, are trying to participate in the accountability of how did we get here, right? That was part of Bourgoin's um, mystique, and I think a really kind of compelling part is he rode this wave of the rise of the true crime fiction genres. And whether he was like Mr. Magoo, kind of stumbling along the way, or had this kind of more Hannibal Lecter, to use the kind of language of the series, a premeditated approach to it. As the arc of true crime grows and emerges into the zeitgeist and becomes one of the dominant subgenres of documentary filmmaking that we're required as filmmakers to participate in. And Lauren, as a journalist, those are the stories that are captivating imaginations. We have to look at ourselves and our own intentions around that. So I think the biggest thing we learned is that we want to take an approach where we're not pointing fingers. And the idea of holding the mirror up was to be, acknowledge our participation first as the audience and fans as the genres grow. I mean, I love Silence of the Lambs too, of course. So that
Right.
becomes part of. I mean, I'm a participant in the audience, demand for it, and then as becoming a working professional in the documentary field, you make choices about which projects you work in, and if you're going to work in true crime genre, like I wanted to do it in my distinct way, which was to not point fingers, not push people further into the margins, but try to like look at things as compassionately and journalistically as possible, as a way to understand better. I mean, that's why I'm in this field. I think so. I think indicting people was not the intention of this, but understanding is, and I think that is became the kind of ethos of our team. From Lauren to all of our producers and editors, is that this is not about judgment. This is about kind of comprehension.
Well, and Ben
Yeah.
and I had a lot of conversations about this, both on and off camera, just over the course of the project. And I think something that we finally hit upon after just like really a lot of kind of back and forth and occasional sparring and just like testing out and bouncing ideas off of one another was that we are both kind of for expanding the lens and a more capacious definition of true crime. We know it engages people. We know there's so much enthusiasm. And so what we were kind of trying to do was say, all right, let's take these skills, you know, where does it go next? Like, let's take these skills and, you know, and this enthusiasm and try to, you know, shine it in other places and think about like, you know, what are the crimes that should be being exposed and examined um, and and discussed.
Yeah, and to build off that too is that, you know, again, you know, I think the reason this project was unique is that you know, our collaboration on and off camera and something we try to like put into the project as a point of friction, but in a very genuine, intellectually curious way, got us, you know, got the whole project's gaze to I think ascend. And again, it's not to again indict the previous makers of true crime, which are my colleagues and people I respect the hell out of. It's really paying homage to that work, building upon it, and to Lauren's, you know, point is to do, you know, continue to expand and iterate on the genre, grow it, evolve it, add something to it while you know, borrowing and building and paying homage to, you know, our colleagues and predecessors in the genre. Again, I think less about pointing fingers and indicting the genre, but rather just interrogating it. But always doing it, you know, including ourselves as part of that kind of lineup, if you will.
Right, right. Yeah, I just found that to be so incredibly impactful because in reaching the end without saying all of what happens, it's like I didn't know if it was just going to be like this waking up to the dehumanized world kind of feeling, or it just felt like the canvas was really opened up. We really got to see behind the curtain, and it didn't feel like y'all were inserting yourselves for just for the sake of it. It like even in the end, there's a discussion about that, and I love when stories do that and where they have like this conversation that I'm having in my head as I'm watching it, they're having it on screen. I'm like, this is like completely critic proof. And so I just found that really, really exciting.
Well, yeah, we like want to have that conversation with you. I mean, we want to have that conversation with everybody who's watching, with everybody who's reviewing, with everybody. I don't know. It's a conversation that Ben and I have not tired of over the course of, you know, however, how long have we spent making this? I don't even know, but I don't know. It's a it's a rich conversation, and I think there are room for a lot of viewpoints. But we certainly wanted to just, yeah, kind of like bring that out from backstage, the conversations that we were having as we went.
Yeah, and part of that is that, you know, respecting the hell out of the audience's intelligence. They're astute. They watch a lot of true crime, right? So how do you, you know, not playing to the misdirects and the tropes that they're expecting, and then also you know, this story is about betrayal, right? What fuels so many people is betrayal, whether it is Bourgoin, the Fourth Eye, the survivors and victims. Is like betrayal is kind of, you know, dripping over everyone, and so the last thing we want to do is betray the audience by, you know, using false misdirects and, you know, and also betraying their kind of intelligence. And so we wanted to bring it out, be like, this is the conversations we're having. You audience can more than participate in this. And it's interesting. It's a fourth axis of storytelling that was really going on and happening and was not resolved throughout the process. And, you know, like Lauren was saying, like we continue these conversations all through the edit, like the gaze, the point of view, what can be shared, what couldn't be shared. And we you know, kind of went with a much more transparent, open approach, which was the intent from the beginning to break that fourth wall. But you know, maintain it through the edit is another matter. And so, you know, a lot of that came from, you know, in respect and also challenging an audience, and audience quite educated in this genre. So we had to push hard.
Yeah, yeah. I know we're just about to run out of time, but I wanted to, as you just touched on, with working that into the edit, there's all the technical aspects, the way that you frame the film and transition from one moment to the next in a way that matches the haziness or cloudiness of the truth in this. For instance, when you show the year in which something took place, the number on screen is kind of going between 1974 and 1975. And then there's the moment where there's all these television screens and it shows Stefan talking, but you can't quite make out what's being said. TV turns off, and then we transition into a laptop showing a home video. So how was it carrying over some of the blurriness of the truth over to your presentation of it all?
Well, I mean, great observations again. I think, you know, while this is also betrayal, it's also about memory, right? And the creation,
Yeah.
confabulation of memory, and where does the cinematic aspiration or the kind of escapism begin, and when does your actual legitimate memory and fact kind of converge? And that was very murky with Bourgoin for sure, but perhaps all of us, all of us are, memory is tricky and subjective, and subject to the moment of emotion, acuity at the time. And so all of that was meant to represent, as you said, this murkiness, right? Like Herzog talks about ecstatic truth, and that's what the best we could hope to pursue here. Not a clear judicial objective truth or some kind of burden of proof we could lift. We could just do our very best to, acknowledge the subjectivity of, this, what I love about the show is that there's this 360 world, right? We have, Lauren, we have Stefan, we have the fourth eye, we have witnesses, observers, friends, colleagues. So we have a very rich universe giving all these perspectives, but they're all just perspectives. So it's up to the audience to take all of these perspectives and divine a judgment and understanding themselves. It's not something we were going to kind of conclude for them. But we wanted to acknowledge, you said, like the haze and the kind of fogginess and the lack of sharpness.
The multidimensionality. I mean, I think that's such a good point. Trying to make a timeline for this. I mean, you could not, the truth is not horizontal in this story. I mean, it was like an MC Escher just trying to, trying to make a timeline was impossible, because I tried it many times. But you would need, like, I don't know, just like a Rubik's cube or something. I mean, just, paper and pen kind of like horizontality did not suffice. So I think Ben did an amazing job of finding ways to translate that visually and technically. And it's exciting that, like, you see that and you pick up on that.
Yeah, really appreciate that. And I love that line, Lauren. The truth is not horizontal or geometric. Like, that is like, couldn't be more apt for this. That, it's a amazing, yet another amazing line that Lauren's, kind of create a summary around the themes of the project. So
she's a writer for a reason.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh yeah.
Not a timeline maker.
The finest.